Well, hello everyone. Thank you very much for being here on the second day of the CBC Symposium. I'll talk briefly about the CBC research strategy and how we are planning to develop a series of white papers. So the CBC has an academic lead. This is at the moment mainly established within UCL, but we do plan to have academics from other institutions. So we have a committee, a central steering committee. We have strategic partners. They are people that may or may not be contributing financially to the consortium. And we have our members. So strategic partners, they together with the CBC design and contribute to projects. And the members, they participate in general, so they have like an allowance to have academic time and attend all the events. So the committees are revised periodically, and we have a plan in place to increase this the many committees around the world. So we have 4 different work streams dealing with financing and legals, design and construction processes, operations and use, and culture compliance and policy. Each work stream is led by a different academic. I'm responding more for the design construction processes, BIM and supply chain. Professor Eleni Papadonikolaki, she is looking after operations and use, also to do with the BIM and supply chain and building management systems. Professor Alden is looking to culture compliance and policy. And Professor Philip Treleaven is as an expert in fintech, and he's looking to finance and legals. So our first document was a value proposition. This was published last year in our first business network with IBM. So this year we are working on a finance and procurement document, a white paper, and this will be used in conjunction with the Big Innovation Center and the Blockchain APPG to inform policy and compliance within the Parliament. And the idea for the next year is to develop a white paper on BIM and computer-supported collaborative design in relation to blockchain. In 2001, we hope to publish a white paper on IoT and operations and blockchain. So the cost to publish one of those white papers is about £15,000. And it takes about 6 to 8 months. But from the past white paper, we realized that it's taking a little bit longer, maybe, but it's fair to say that it probably would take 9 to 10 months. UCL contributes with some of the costs, and the remainder it comes from fees, from membership fees and events. So the tickets you pay for symposiums like this goes towards the work put into the white papers. So this, as I said, inform policy and compliance. We are collaborating with the Blockchain APPG and the Big Innovation Center, as you heard yesterday. And then if you want to have a look at the current white paper, this is work in progress, it's almost finished. You can scan this barcode and this will lead you to the document. And you can see the work we are doing. There's some markups and some references to be done, but it's really almost there. I think there's only maybe 20% due to be completed in the next few weeks. And then I'll pass now to Gavin. He has been pretty much leading the production of this document, but we have a very good team. We have Brittany, who's contributing a lot on the management side, the management knowledge going to the paper. Eleni is talking and elaborating on the problematics of construction in general, and I'm elaborating on blockchain and BIM technologies. So I'll pass it together. Thank you very much.
So, as Abel just kindly introduced, my name is Dr. Gavin Johnson. I'm working with the CBC project to develop a series of what I hopefully have coined is a new phrase, is micro white papers. So this is, in my head anyway, a series of small and very focused white papers that address a specific problem in and around construction and looks at how we may go around dealing with that and how we may approach solutions for it. So a little bit about myself. It's always fun at these events to say how many lawyers are in the room. Two. Wow, that's double the number that was in attendance last time. But why is a lawyer here talking? It's very important to understand the context of construction against the background of law. But what's my background? So I actually run a law tech consultancy. So this is a firm that is looking to deliver technology solutions for professional services firms primarily, in particular law firms, yes, but also accounting firms and so on. But also we've recently begun to start a number of our own blockchain projects. One of them is about to go into partnership for development, which is quite an exciting proposition. So I am actually working in this space. I do have some credibility, I would hope, with blockchain. And we're developing those solutions. So my personal background, I actually studied science and engineering at university. I hold a doctorate in applied chemistry. It's actually around implementation, but that's the area it's in. I'm a policy committee member here for the CBC, and I'm a founder member of DASA, which is the Digital Asset Standards Association. So this is a group looking to develop standards for the tokenization of equities. So hopefully I'm qualified to say something around this topic. Now, when it comes to how the CBC is working to develop its thinking, I'm always quite careful. We're not here to define a business case, a business plan. We're not here to specify requirements, dictate what it is we think we should do. We're here to provide advice. We're here to provide direction. We're not going to dictate, we're not going to instruct. We're trying to lead in thought, not manage blindly. And I was trying to come up with a phrase that would frame that, and we're here to frame the problem for you. We're not here to demand an answer, we're not here to tell you what you should do. In part because we can't. These are very, very complicated issues, and I'm not going to gild the lily. I'm not going to pull back from that. I will tell you right now that these are some very complex issues that you are dealing with in blockchain. And for those of you who are delivering blockchain solutions, well done to you. So, our first chosen area, our first challenge, was cash flow. Why cash flow? Cash flow, certainly from a legal perspective, makes up about 2/3 of all claims in the UK anyway, around 60 to 70%. That's the number of, that's the percentage of claims that I certainly deal with as a lawyer. Adjudications, arbitration, litigation, it's all around cash flow by and large. So if we can tackle that, if we can alleviate the problems in and around cash flow, we're going to save a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of grievance, and hopefully prevent a lot of disputes. And cash flow, I'm not sure who I was talking to yesterday, but somebody said that cash flow or cash is the lifeblood of the economy, which I thought was a great phrase, and it's true. You know, credit crises happen because people panic and start holding their money. Economically, that's the wrong thing to do. If there's a credit shortening or credit tightening, start spending money, alleviate the cash flow, and the economy will keep going. That failed in 2008. That failed in part because the Fed stopped putting money into the economy. They didn't go down a quantitative easing route, and so the credit crisis happened. Lots of people went bankrupt. Lots of people lost their homes. So this is fundamental and critical to construction. So why is a lawyer talking about this? As a lawyer, I have to be able to advise on consequences, failures of action. So I'm always thinking about the eventualities, the risks, the ambiguities, and the language of contracts. Why? Cash flow surely is a very simple thing. Contracts are very simple. When I go to the shop in the morning, I want to buy, a newspaper, or my wife and I went for coffee this morning. Very simple thing to do. Go and buy some coffee. The vendor gives me my coffee. I give him the euro. Everybody's happy. We go about our day. That's a very simple contract. But as a lawyer, I've got to think, well, what if that goes wrong? What could go wrong? Well, wait a minute, let's start thinking about it. Let's take a step back. So I go and buy my coffee. I say, I'd like the coffee, please. They give me the coffee, I walk out the shop having paid, and I realise he's given me a latte and I wanted a flat white. Okay, there's a problem there. Now, that's perhaps my problem because I've not said I wanted a flat white specifically, so it's my mistake. But I'm not happy, but there's probably nothing I can do. If I'd gone in and said, I want a flat white, please, and I get a latte, pay, walk out, and then realise, now that's the shopkeeper's mistake. Contractually, how do we deal with that? And this is the problem. So I've got to start thinking about what could go wrong, and how do we deal with that. And in the legal context, particularly in construction, that presents a very significant problem. I could go on with that example and identify, I don't know, about another dozen problems just with buying coffee. But you should never, lunch is coming up, so you should never stand in the way of a large crowd and a good meal. So we're thinking about our first solution, and this is getting into the paper now. What are the elements that we think you will need to consider in and around developing a solution for cash flow in construction? So we think about the law. What does the law require? In the UK, we're fortunate to an extent to have the Construction Act, which is very specific in its requirements. You must file an application notice. The contractor must tell you if he's not going to pay or if he's going to pay something different, and then he must pay within a specified period. In very simple terms. Finance, we start thinking about money flowing. Well, if we're developing a cash flow solution, we have to think about money, what money is, and how we represent that. Because in a blockchain environment, we're not talking about money, we're talking about tokens. The UK and the US regulators do not recognise cryptocurrencies, or blockchain currency, blockchain money, as money. It's an asset. If it's an asset, it's a security. If it's a security, then you need to be a regulated business in order to advise and deal in that instrument. Well, no one in the construction supply chain is going to go and become a regulated individual to deal with tokens. So we have to understand how tokens work, how we can relate them to money, to allow money to flow through a blockchain supply chain, a blockchain-based supply chain. This is a complicated question. I have no answers, by the way. I'm not. My background is construction law. It's not finance law, but from what I do understand, this could be a significant problem. The process. So I mentioned earlier that when it comes to process, particularly in the UK, and the payment mechanisms, you have to put an application in. There's pay less notices, and then you may or may not get paid depending on what happens. It's a very specific process. But there are other elements. We were talking about retention a little bit yesterday, the 50% retention of the contract. I'm surprised that got through. If I were the lawyer, I'd have been jumping up and down saying you must be mad, but these things happen. So how will retention work? Now in the blockchain system, you can see that will be automated. So you automatically withhold 5%. A lot more efficient to do. No arguments, that's what the contract says, so it's written into the smart contract, it's all automated. But then you've got release of retention. And then what about more complex instruments, performance bonds, management bonds, and so on. So you can begin to see that the finance around that cash flow solution becomes quite complex. And usability. I'm always reminded that we're dealing with construction. Now, you may go to a professional services firm, the big consultancies, very tech savvy, very comfortable using technology, very comfortable with somebody sitting there and telling them all about blockchain and tokens and tokenomics and how these things work. But you've got to remember that the bulk of the construction industry is made up of small subcontracted parties. These are tradespeople. If you're going to go to them and start talking about high-tech solutions, are they going to listen? Are they going to care? No. Does the average person care how your ATM works? When you go, you put your card in, you say, I want £10, take money, off you go. But that machine has done a whole lot of work in the background that is not explained, nor is it particularly of interest to the person taking that cash out. So when it comes to the considerations, you must be aware of the law, the legal process, finance, accounting, taxation, cash flow management, project management, all these things that will define your cash flow solution. And this is a challenge, even in the simplest of solutions. And I issue this only as a warning, but also I hope you can see that there's an opportunity in here. There's an opportunity to do something truly revolutionary that will make a huge difference to a very industry. I forget the numbers that were shown yesterday. It was trillions of dollars that are spent in this industry. You can alleviate some of the potential cash flow and disputes around cash in this industry. You're going to make all the difference, and the smaller suppliers are not going to suffer as much as they potentially do. So I always try and leave on a positive note, and I know we want to get into some questions and discussion, so I think that's where the fun really starts. So this is probably one of my favourite quotes. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. That's obviously from the Think Different ad campaign back in '98. And that means that you guys are the crazy ones, because you're crazy enough to think that you can actually do something with blockchain. That means you're my kind of thing. And with that, I'll end my remarks, and let's move into the discussion.